Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Amma ba'da, habitifillah, a question was asked from a talib al-ilm in one of the Islamic universities who says, I'm a student of knowledge and I have the means to get married. Is it encouraged for me to get married while I'm a student of knowledge? You know what this means. So, no doubt that marriage is an immense duty Islamically. And no doubt in most cases, definitely I would say most cases, getting married does take away from your talib al-ilm. And it can also strengthen your talib al-ilm. And this is going to depend upon the wife. This is going to depend on the type of marriage. And with that being the case, there's no doubt that you know yourself better and you know your situation better. That if you have the financial means to bring and be with your wife wherever you're seeking knowledge, and you feel that you have the need to marry, that it is something which is very, that weighs upon you, weighs upon your mind, and distracts you from your studies, then under those circumstances, I would advise you to marry. If you think that you can be patient and it's not that big of a deal for you, then there's no doubt that focusing on your talib al-ilm until you get to maybe a certain point or you graduate or whatever the case may be, until you feel the need that and it weighs on you that it's something very important for you to start a family or whatever the case may be. Everyone's scenario and situation is different. Then I would advise that you be patient until you are ready to get married. So that's going to depend upon your status in totality. And the last piece of advice I would ask, if you are in an Islamic university, then I'm assuming that you're in an Islamic country, I would also advise you to ask the ulama too. Ask some of the scholars there, wherever you are, and just ask for their advice. Explain your scenario completely. Maybe you're a foreigner in their land, whatever the case may be, and the difficulty of it is that it can be difficult to bring a wife to. I know the situation in Saudi Arabia specifically is quite difficult, and definitely not impossible, and thousands of students have done it, but again, they don't usually make it very easy, unfortunately, and assist. And so all of those things need to be taken under consideration. And whatever you do, a last piece of advice I'd say is not to compromise. And what I mean by that is because some of the brothers, when they go overseas and I don't say compromise in what I would like to rephrase that by saying, well, definitely no one should compromise when they're choosing a spouse. You don't want a spouse just because you think that she has excellent deen, or she may have excellent deen, but you're not attracted to her. And I've seen that happen countless times. Brothers married sisters that are half of the Quran in various lands, in Yemen, in Saudi Arabia, and this and that and the other. And it ended up in being divorced because there was no real love and there was no real attraction. The brother was excited to get him married, and he married a sister that is a good religion. And I've seen this, I literally can say countless times. I won't say hundreds because that's a large amount, but I've seen it in Yemen and Saudi Arabia specifically, and Morocco, all over. It happens. So I would say be aware of those things. Make sure you are trying to marry for life, and you want a sister with religion, and you want a sister that you're attracted to. And likewise, this goes for the sisters as well. Marry a man you're attracted to and that is good in his religion. And so all of those things need to be considered. And a last point, and what I was actually trying to drive at, is also another situation. If you're from the West, this is something to consider too, the issue of sponsoring, because that can be very difficult. I know a lot of people have had a lot of stress and stressful marriages because they had difficulty bringing their spouses, and especially when you marry from countries that are third world, so to speak, that are very that are very difficult for the inhabitants of those places to travel and come to your society. If you're in the UK, if you're in France, if you're in America, it can be very difficult and very stressful, and stressful on the marriage. So that is another thing I would say to deeply consider if you choose to marry a sister from overseas while you're overseas and she has difficulty getting a visa to your country. So consider all of those things, and we ask Allah the Almighty to accept our good and forgive our evil, and to make all of our affairs easy and good. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.